I know some of y'all are looking at that thumbnail and that title and saying to yourselves, finally, Torian, it has been long overdue for the Hodge twins to end up in the bed bugging Hall of Shame. You know, for me, I always like to wait for a particular moment that really sticks out to me for them to be entered in. And since I don't watch their content, I really couldn't find anything, and I wasn't going to go look at their content to just pluck anything out. But this one right here fell into my lap, and I said, this is the one right here. For me, this is the one. So as we all know, there was a plane crash. Well, it wasn't a crash, it was a landing. It landed and it set on fire. I believe the wing detached, and it was a Delta flight going to Toronto, and it had a bad landing and it rolled over and turned upside down. Thankfully, there were no casualties. I believe there were some injuries, but everybody, as far as I know, did survive that. And mainly it's because it landed and slid on the ground. It wasn't like a mid-air crash collision, like, or one that took a nosedive. The plane landed, but it just didn't do a good landing, and it turned over upside down, and they got the people out, and thankfully they were okay. But this post right here from the Hodge twins, well, they reposted it from this page called Garbage Human. At least this Garbage Human page is well aware of who they are, and that is indeed being garbage. Unlike the people that reposted it, who were the subject matter of this video, have no clue that they indeed are trash, and that is the Hodge twins. Now, as you can see by this picture, it's two of them. On top is the image of the Delta flight that landed and it rolled over and turned upside down. And on the bottom picture is a picture of two black female pilots. And what they did was they took their picture and turned it upside down. Basically, the imagery that they're trying to portray is that when the plane landed, they were upside. This is how they was looking in the cockpit. They were turned upside down. One thing that lets you know that this is indeed not real, and even if it was real, this would be highly disrespectful, is that the two pilots that are flying the plane, if you look at their attire, it doesn't line up with Delta. I don't think that's the Delta attire for a pilot, unless I could be wrong. If the pilots I don't know if the pilots wear a neutral type of attire no matter what airline they fly, or whatever the case may be. I might be getting it mixed up definitely with the flight attendants and everything. Their attire is definitely aligned with the airline. So if I'm wrong on that, forgive me. But they posted a picture of these two black women facing upside down as if to insinuate they were the ones piloting this plane. Mind you, when this image was posted, it was literally mere hours after the plane incident. It wasn't even an entire day, and if it was, it might have been just 24 hours. So it wasn't even that long of a day. And they posted that up there because, again, they're going with this, they're putting out this narrative that if a black person is flying an airplane or piloting a plane, then this most likely will happen. Mind you, all the airplanes that we have heard in recent time, and that means in January alone, and even with this one, we don't know yet, but within January, it was discovered that all of the pilots were indeed white people, specifically more so white men. And even in the past, when we've looked at the plane collisions, as tragic as they were, since they want to bring the race thing into it, because they like to say black people like to bring up race, they all turned out to be white men mainly. And if you look at the stats, most pilots are white men. Just like with DEI, most people benefiting from DEI are white women. And that's the narrative they kept trying to push here. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, weren't y'all the ones saying to get rid of DEI, that you don't like diversity, equity, and inclusion, and people should be hired on merit and all this, that, and the third, but they're still yelling out about DEI all the time? I thought DEI was over with, just like when they kept trying to yell out affirmative action, but it's like affirmative action is over with. Why are you still talking about it? But see, they always come up with buzzwords, and we know when it happens, they're talking about black people. This post right here, amongst several others, proves just that. And then you had the Hodge twins literally repost what this person said and put two crying laughing emojis because they thought it was so funny. And then when I was looking through the comments, they were sitting there just laughing it up, thinking it was so funny. I'm like, a simple Google search will tell you that black people whether it's man or woman, don't benefit heavily from DEI. As a matter of fact, we're near the bottom of the list of those who did benefit from it, when it was around, seemingly when it was around, because they say it's not around anymore, but that's what they say. You know how they like to lie. But the fact of the matter is they thought this was so funny. Not one time did they see or check to see if anybody was okay, make sure there was no casualties, and those who were injured, how bad were the injuries, or none of that. They went straight into, oh, let's post this picture of this plane turned upside down and put another picture underneath it of 2 black women pilots face upside down too, to insinuate they were the ones flying this plane. They don't know any more than I do right now. They don't have any idea. As a matter of fact, I'll probably update this video probably closer to the time when the video gets ready to be uploaded, if they ever do release the identity of the pilots, because they still have not done so yet. It's only been about 2 or 3 days since it happened, so there's still a developing story as this is going on in the errors that happened with that plane. But they took it upon themselves, and I'm not surprised that they did. But they thought, and by them I'm talking about the Hodge twins, thought it was so funny about this particular post to show 2 black women in this image turned upside down as if they were the ones flying this plane. They really thought that this was downright hilarious. What will be hilarious is when they get their wake-up call. That will be funny. And what's so crazy is, as I was getting ready to make this video, I came across this post on Reuters where it says Delta CEO says flight crew on Toronto plane that crashed was experienced. It's a shame that the CEO of Delta had to come out and make a statement like this, because they already knew the type of reception it was going to receive, as far as, people, are they qualified to pilot this plane, bringing up the DEI thing, because they knew what was going to happen. They knew exactly what they were going to do. So the Delta CEO had to say, look, they are experienced. This was a climate issue. This was a weather issue. I believe they said they had like high winds, and it just blew the plane. It basically just blew the plane over. And that's something you just cannot help. That's why a lot of people honestly do not fly in the winter months, because of issues like this, because the winter months can be very turbulent, and then, with wind and snow and ice and all types of stuff. It's a disaster. It's a climate disaster to travel in the wintertime. Take it from somebody who used to work at an airport, where the months from January to about spring break, which was like mid-March, it would be so dead at the airport. It would be so much downtime. We would probably get maybe a total. I remember one time when I was working there, we probably had under 1,000 passengers that day. It was such a light day. They let us leave early, and usually we was there from like 12:30 to 8. Some of us were able to leave around 5 on certain days, and those were in the winter months, because a lot of people don't travel during that time because the weather is bad. And those aren't popular travel months anyway, because it's the winter. Where am I going to go? Unless I'm going to some kind of Caribbean island or overseas or in a warmer area, it is not ideal. Opposed to when it's spring, then that's when everybody likes to travel the most, because then the weather is like on one accord for the most part across the establishment if they're traveling domestically. So yeah, the Delta CEO had to come out and make that statement, and I know why they did, because they knew what people like the Hodge twins and that garbage human page were going to post, and they said we got to get ahead of this. But even with them saying that, it still won't matter, because the usual suspect and their co-colonizing cohorts are going to already have the narrative, what they have made up in their mind. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have right there. But like I said, I'll probably, if they release the identity of the pilots before I upload this video, then I'll insert this in. If they do not, then this is where we'll leave it at right here.